Yeah, and I think that'll do it with the weekly sports update. All right, so now we're going to go into our first topic. Blake, what are your thoughts on the 2024 All-Star Weekend?
The NBA All-Star Weekend. It was another weekend, another boring All-Star game, more dunks and threes, and absolutely no effort. The most interesting topic for the last decade, more so in the last 5 years, is how do we fix the All-Star game? Now, I've heard a lot of suggestions. I've heard USA versus World, and maybe that caught a little bit of spirit within me, but the NBA just simply isn't going to do it. And if the NBA does it, I don't see it actually improving the game that much, and I suspect the NBA already knows this. The NBA also knows you can't pay them. The mere notion you could offer these players an amount of money and still plan to turn a profit is absurd. These players make more money by being selected to an All-Star game in current and future NBA contracts than you could ever offer the winning team of an All-Star game. I mean, think about the players that are on there just yearly. I mean, LeBron James every year. What amount of money are you going to offer a LeBron James? Or even go a little bit less. Kyrie Irving. What money are you going to offer Kyrie Irving? Steph Curry. These are absurd numbers we're talking about. And the NBA's current objective is to turn a profit. And just doesn't make any sense there. We already talked about that. The answers are all wrong because the questions the public has been asking are wrong. The question shouldn't be, how do we get the players to play hard in a clearly meaningless game? The real question is, how do we make the All-Star weekend interesting to fans? Bottom line is, the NBA All-Star Weekend is there to turn a profit. The only two events that caught my interest going into the weekend was Mac McClung, who I've seen doing crazy dunks since his junior year at Gate City. The biggest draw, though, for me, without a doubt, was Sabrina Ionescu versus Steph Curry in the three-point competition. Took no creativity. They didn't go remake the wheel with a three-point show between two. It was the exact same three-point competition that has been going on forever. The only twist is they added the best shooter from the WNBA and the best shooter from the NBA. That's all that happened. It was exciting. It was close. And it was validating. Curry showed why he's the best shooter in the world, capable of carrying an event like that himself. Sabrina tied all the other NBA players that night for the second highest score in the three-point shooting contest at 26. Believe she only got one shot at that as well. That should be counted. In fact, I really badly at the end of that wanted them to go again. You know, I didn't take arm exhaustion into it. I was like, can we give an hour? Can we rub the arms and throw them both back out there? Because it was so much fun to watch. And of course, Mac McClung and Sabrina Ionescu brought my interest back to the All-Star Weekend. Neither play in the NBA.
That's a really good point. I didn't even think about that, about how neither of them play in the NBA. The dunk contest, really, I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't very interesting to me. But that Sabrina Curry 3-point shootout, that was my main event. That was what I was looking forward to. And let me tell you, as you mentioned, it lived up to the hype. It was so much fun to watch.
I'm going to get a little bit off topic by arguing that dunk contest take a little bit, just a little bit, not really arguing the same point here, but then we're going to get right back on track here. Do you think that dunk contest would have been as good with really any other player other than Mac McClung, who's currently not in the NBA, in the dunk contest?
I don't know. The only, there's the debate between are in-game dunkers as good as like creative dunkers. Mac McClung is obviously a creative dunker. And I don't watch the G League, so I don't know how he's doing, if he's a good in-game dunker. I'm assuming he is. But I'm thinking, if you can get these guys like John Morant, who is a high flyer, I know he's injured, so that wouldn't have really worked for this. But if you can get those high flyers, I think it would have been a little more interesting, just because you have like those household names. I felt like I didn't really have a stake in this. I didn't really care who won. But if you get a star on, if I were a Celtics fan, I would have wanted Jaylen Brown to win. But Yeah, I
Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine is in place of Mac McClung. Is that as interesting to you? Because he's done dunk contest, and I didn't find them near as interesting. I think you're just a little bit of disrespect to Mac McClung's dunking ability because, like I said, been throwing it down forever now. I've been watching his dunks in his junior year of high school.
His YouTube highlights of his dunk mix since high school is absolutely phenomenal.
That's what the people want to see, and that's why the All-Star game has got to go. The players make too much. And there's little leverage for the NBA to use to make them play harder. The NBA should consider a weekend of entertainment that includes competitions between the NBA and the WNBA, the G League, and all the other ballers. These competitions have no need to stay the same year in and year out. And this plan actually fits the NBA because of the NBA's domination of social media. Why is this a great idea? Because, simply put, the NBA can go get a bunch of different ideas of all kinds of different competitions between, Sabrina Ionescu. The big next one's going to be Caitlin Clark, who we talked about earlier, and a bunch of these women basketball players, these WNBA players. And then you're going to get some G League, and there are some more dunkers like Mac McClung in the G League who are just, maybe the full game isn't NBA level, but the dunking is top tier. It's elite. I think you bring some of those players in. Then you got to talk about, maybe there's some interesting stuff with some street ballers, some professional street ballers, or, go get some players from Spain that are playing really well. There's just so many options here for the NBA that I feel like they limit themselves by putting it into a game that they know that these players are just never going to put a lot of effort in. What are your thoughts on that, Jake?
Well, one thing about the competitiveness of the game, I don't know how. I mean, I thought of earlier USA versus World. That could make them. There's some pride there. Could make them play harder. But one of the things I'm thinking of is, what if they go the opposite route? What if instead of trying to make this a competitive game, what if they just make it a more fun game? This is the first year, I believe, where they had that LED court. So why don't they use that to their advantage? Add a moving dots on the court, and have Curry pull up from, I don't know, half court. He pulls up on a moving dot. That's 5 points for the West. Just something to make it a little more creative. Something to make it a little more fun without upping the competition, because these guys don't want to compete at the highest level for the All-Star game.
Yeah, some different ideas there. So Jake's saying, make it a little bit more fun. I enjoy that aspect for the younger fan base, but I just don't know if you're going to get any of maybe the everyday watchers and the adults in the room on that too much. Now, I want to clarify my take a little bit before we move on to the NFL draft and the top 5 quarterbacks that we believe will be taken off the board. But I just want to clarify my take here. I think this is such a valuable suggestion for the NBA because their social media dominance is far beyond any other league. We don't see the MLS or NFL even putting up highlight videos that get as much watch around the world and just in the country as the NBA. I think it would be spectacular if they were able to create a list of these every year and have fans vote almost the same way they do in all-star voting on which ones they'd want to see the most, right?
That's a good idea.
That would be spectacular because then you don't have to worry so much about flops, and it invests the fan base that you're hoping will watch. I think that's just a top-tier idea, but I also think that your idea alludes a little bit more to a younger fan base and could maybe open up new avenues for what basketball can be as far as fun and not so much trying to make them compete. Because simply year in and year out, they don't. Now, I only had one more takeaway from the All-Star weekend, but I'd be remiss without talking about it. I was watching the All-Star celebrity game, and I'm going to admit, I was knocking out some journalism homework. But my biggest takeaway from the game is that Rams rookie star receiver Puka Nacua is just an awesome human. I mean, great player, but even more fun when he was on the mic. I think a great ad, and players like that should be interested in doing the Celebrity All-Star Game. I think it's so cool to see these players go cross sports just for a fun, friendly game like a celebrity game.